conversation for sure. Um,
God.
let's circle back to the idea that, our pelvic floor health, like you said, it's the foundation of the house. If something's wrong in there, um, it's going to affect the whole house is going to be affected by that. So, as we circle back to the idea of like building, physical stamina in our marriages and even relational stamina, because our physical selves uh, affects our relational, our ability to relate to others. So, how, in your experience, as a practitioner, or maybe in your own experience as a wife or mom, like how does pelvic floor understanding affect marital satisfaction, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Where do I start? So, pelvic floor dysfunction, right? Any of the symptoms in pelvic floor can honestly happen at any age. So, let's
Mm,
just throw that out there. Like,
okay.
you can be 5 years old and have some
Mm,
kind of pelvic floor dysfunction,
wow.
or you can experience symptoms before or after pregnancy, or even like 50 years after giving birth. Like, it doesn't really matter. So,
Yeah.
knowing that, depending on your history with whatever you're dealing with, you can bring that into your marriage, for
Mm,
one. And that has a complete psychosocial aspect of that, either it be trauma or
mhm.
various different types of traumas, and how how that affects your biases with your marriage, with your husbands, and how and what that brings to the partnership, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, for example, like let's go back to like the incontinence
Okay.
experience and scenario again.
Yeah.
And anyone experiencing that, no matter what your age, it's gonna feel embarrassing. It's
Yeah.
gonna feel a little insecure. Like you're not gonna feel very sexy when you think there's a possibility that you might leak a little bit.
Yep.
Either it be at a date with your husband, or if it's just when you're getting ready to get intimate.
Mhm.
And so you might, and it doesn't matter how supportive your partner is and how safe you feel in the relationship and in the partnership, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. I love it. It's mom life at its core. I totally get
Yeah.
it.
Yes. but but that also brings a lot of reservations to the relationship, because you have this experience that like either will be getting worse throughout this marriage,
Yeah.
and it really does affect how you are willing to participate in certain activities or be spontaneous. And
Yeah.
you may think it's nothing, but over time, if you've experienced this for 10 years and it's
Mm,
progressively getting worse, and you've been married and with your partner for 10 years, and if you actually look back and think of all the things you used to do, or used to be
mm,
comfortable doing, or used to have fun doing but don't do anymore, then you realize that you've actually changed your life around something that you thought was a very minor
yeah.
symptom that you have.
Yeah.
And and then sometimes it takes like looking back to finally realize
Mm,
like how much you've given up because of that.
yeah.
And so that definitely affects just your relationship with yourself, but then also, and then your relationship with your partner.
Yeah.
And that's just not even a scenario where there's pain with sexual function,
Intercourse.
like
Yeah. Right.
intercourse, penetration. And so that is another, depending on how important that is to your partner or to your partnership,
Yep.
that can, I mean, as simple as just slowly decreasing the times a week you're willing to
Mm,
participate in sex. It may be 3 days now, and then 5 years down the road, you realize it's like maybe once a month, and you're like, what
yeah.
happened? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and that's just, and you know the effects, but you probably don't even know how it affects your partner
Yeah.
until
Or
you're,
how to communicate about it,
yeah,
in a way that's,
comfortable for everyone, and
yeah.
like
Yeah.
feel like you're working towards something versus accepting that this is just how it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, if we could create a language around the like like how to even say like, hey, this doesn't feel good. I mean, that was like even in and of itself when, I just had a conversation with another speaker this morning. When I first got married, I had to even learn like that desire was okay, and sexual like interaction, intercourse, all the things that lead up to sex, all the things that happen during and after, like we have to put language to these feelings, and if we've never learned how to put language to them, it's like it feels
You're
weird, good. Like, like it hurts kind of,
that's
but I don't know exactly where, like
That's so true. Like, I didn't even think about it that way, but that's exactly it. Like, it's like, is it arousal? Is it desire? Is it
right.
pleasure? Like, what are these feelings? We don't really know, and we don't
Yeah.
really know what we're seeking or trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the more you talk about it, the more you learn about it, then I guess there's just, yeah, more understanding for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And a space to say, like, hey, something's not right. So, and I want to figure out what it is so that,
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So as women, recover, like we, talked about motherhood, but there's a lot of other things that we as women will be recovering from, within our journey. And so as we recover from things like major abdominal surgery, as in a C-section, or the residual symptoms of childbirth, or even the changes that your body goes through with menopause, um, what can we do when things don't go like we expected it to, or on the timeline that we were expecting healing to take place? Um, and if you don't mind, like sharing a little bit about your journey, like with the wives that are listening, and just with, again, the idea that this is such a safe space to just say we're in this with you. Um, we've had these experiences. It didn't go like we thought it would. And how can we find solidarity? How can we kind of find breakthrough in those spaces, even when, the timeline of healing didn't go like we thought, or the way we wanted to give birth didn't happen? Um, yeah. And I guess we'll start with that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, first of all, a lot of times with surgery or like recovery dates, most of the time, recovery dates are shorter than what it should be. So,
Mm,
for example, so give yourself more time and
mm,
grace for the recovery phase. Like, if, for example, childbirth, usually around 6 weeks, you have your checkup and with your midwife or your OB, and they clear you for activities
mhm.
like normal activities as were before. But you realize you can't really walk for 5 miles without some kind of discomfort or not necessarily feeling the same as you did.
Yeah.
And so then you feel at this time, you're like, man, this is not going the way it should be. Like, why is it taking me so long? But recovery from childbirth, honestly, like takes years.
Mm,
Like, give yourself a year to recover from that.
yeah.
Like, it's such a traumatic experience that your body will do it. It will heal, but it will just take more time. So with that timeline, um, just have that in mind.
That's good.
That's good. And it's okay. Like, everyone's different. Like, I may recover at a different pace than you will.